my name is Valhalla Pickle, and this is my Satisfactory 1.0 starter core power plant. Despite its relatively small size, this build packs in 110 core generators, 55 water extractors, 64 batteries, and of course all the required logistics. In total, this factory consumes 1,650 core per minute, with an additional 4,950 water per minute, meaning that this factory can generate 8,250 megawatts of power. This is my first of many Satisfactory mega projects, and if you go on to enjoy the video, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe for daily Satisfactory live streams and videos on this channel. Without further ado, let's just get straight into it. What better place to start this video than at the very entrance of the core power plant? As you can see, we've got a nice tower leading into the actual power plant itself. This does look a little bit like a church, like a couple of my viewers pointed out, but it's supposed to represent a coal tower. Also, I'll very quickly point out, I have had to turn down the graphics a little bit, otherwise I would not physically be able to run this save. So do bear that in mind as we go around. Luckily, I have got a few cinematic shots I will keep adding as the video goes on. So, discussing this entrance a bit furthermore. So, of course we've got the tower, which you guys already have seen, but over here for these pillars, rather than using the metallic pillar, I've actually used a concrete pillar. But the reason as to why it looks like this, rather than, let's say, like concrete, is because I have used this, the chrome finish. And what you see for the rest of my factory is mostly copper, but there is a little bit of carbon steel and chrome finish dotted around the area as well. Going out to sea, we have got some power tower poles. These things are rather simply designed. Essentially, if I ever want to build a factory down on that side later on, I can just use the zip line and go from point A to point B. And you might have been able to see in the cinematics that I've added these pipes right here. Essentially, the reason why I've added this is because I want it to feel like this factory is draining and pumping all the water from the sea into the actual coal generator plant itself. But the way I've actually done the pipe work is so much easier. This extremely simple pipe build runs the entire way around the factory, which I honestly think ends up looking rather nice. And yes, this is a rather long build. So you know what, I think it's time we actually go inside this build, since, let's be honest, that's what we're all here to see. When you enter this building from the north side, this is exactly what you see. This tower is rather empty here in the middle, and that's because I wanted it to be. I could have very easily added a roof somewhere down here, but I wanted the player to actually see how tall this tower actually is. Additionally, we have this thing down here, which is our light control panel, which essentially controls all the lights which you're about to see. I have put this here because I think it looks quite nice. It's not the only thing we have here, however, and that's because we have added some pipes. Again, with the exact same law as what I told you guys on the outside, I want it to feel like this factory is pumping in water from below and all around it. So as you can see, we've got pipelines that go through here and into this wall right there, which obviously connects to nothing, but I thought it looks pretty decent. And I absolutely love the way the concrete looks in shallow water. If you haven't realized by now, Satisfactory in Update 1.0 has changed the way water looks, and it looks beautiful. And the white concrete matching the dark blue of the water really adds a fantastic feel to the game. As most of you know, I absolutely love Satisfactory. Regardless, let's move on. When you come through this tunnel here, and yes, it's essentially a tunnel, you've got a couple different exit signs on the left and on the right. This mimics its way throughout the entire build, and let's say you choose to go to the right side, this will then be your view. Despite these coal power generators being the main eye catcher, if you actually turn right, you get to see something else. Essentially, this is what I've designed as like the janitor's or the mechanic's storeroom, with a bit of radiation and nuclear stuff involved, yes, and some health crates. But if we ignore the crates, this is essentially what it's supposed to be. That's why you've got like ladders there, just in case you have to try and repair something. So I've added a little bit of lore behind this. I promise the main reason as to why I added this isn't to actually store all the items I didn't use. I promise, you guys never saw that. And essentially, this thing goes on for a rather long way. Now let's move on to the lighting, and there is quite a lot of lights throughout this place. Obviously, the first light that we get to see is the exit light, which I think looks rather standard, but I do quite like it. The second light that we get to see is the signs that go all the way across the world, which is quite a far distance, but I think it ends up looking rather nice. Furthermore, we then have the lighting on the coal generators themselves. The white light symbolizes an input, and the green light symbolizes the machine is functional, which is fantastic. And of course, as we can see, this machine is indeed fully functional. Underneath our pathway down here, we've also got these beautiful orange lumen lights lighting up the area, which again looks absolutely breathtaking with lumen turned on. Furthermore, we've got these main lights in the center of the build as well. Originally, these were actually supposed to be pillars, and they were supposed to stretch all the way up to the top of the ceiling. But I didn't like how that looked, but I still wanted there to be something up here. So instead, I improvised like I did with pretty much everything you see around here, and I built these lights on top of here. Again, with lumen turned on, this looks remarkable in my opinion. You might be wondering, what exactly is all this power being used for? Well, it's being used to power my starter factory. If you enjoy this, you're most definitely going to like what I've done with that. So if this video gets to 100 likes, I'll make a video talking about it. This shows me that people are interested to see it. Speaking of lighting, how could we forget the natural light that's all around us? We've got tons of natural light coming in from the right, the left, of course the roof as well, and the front as well as the back of the build, which we'll certainly get onto in just a minute. This pathway that comes out of the main central tunnel continues all the way around the build. There's also a secondary path which leads you in between the coal generators and the water extractors. And of course, the pairing of the chrome of the machine, the blue crystal waters and the concrete foundations just looks beautiful, even in medium graphics. I've also added some more natural light on top of the water extractors, and this quite nice, to be honest, lighting here in the back, where I've used a high barrier, which is one of the brand new items in the game, and I think again it doesn't look too bad. I've also got a ton more lights underneath the pathway as well, which lights up the path even during the evenings. And I must say, I do absolutely adore walking across this thing, especially again during the night times. There's also a secondary entrance and exit over here, which has a rather simple connection because why overcomplicate things, right? And if you were to continue forwards, you come across this, because obviously we have to get the coal in somehow. And the way we do that is by using this glass tower, which looks basic enough, but it serves the purpose I need it to. In fact, this is some behind the scenes stuff which I wasn't really going to show, but might as well go for it now. These are all the conveyor belts that I actually use to gather my coal. Originally, I put this thing here so that you wouldn't be able to see it anywhere else. But during the evenings, this thing is lit up beautifully. So the actual addition of this thing being above the arch actually works out very, very well. The only slight issue is the toxic gas, which I never ended up destroying, but oh well. And some of you might have also seen this, if we come back over here. Yes, this is where my power grid connects to my main starter factory. But I didn't really want a power line to cut across the entire map, other than that of course. So instead, I hid it within the conveyor belts, and you would not have been able to see it if I didn't point it out. Anyway, back to the project, and I guess let's talk a little bit about the roof. Again, we have gone for a copper roof with a mix of staircases. I mean, I used staircases as a roof in Minecraft about 10 years ago, so why not do it in Satisfactory? And if you are thinking or contemplating about using stairs as a roof, I do kind of recommend it. I think it does look quite nice, especially in contrast with these black ramp walls. But of course, you could use a black wall, yellow wall, white wall, chrome wall, whatever you really would like to use. The reason as to why I added black is because I feel like it adds more depth into the build, it adds a bit more shadows, so it makes the project really stand out rather than having chrome or bronze or anything absolutely everywhere. Not to mention, of course, the nice view that you get from up here, which I must say I do actually rather enjoy. So now let's continue our walk down to the other side of the build, because I have added some batteries, like I stated in the intro, that do actually serve quite an important role here. And just like that, here we are. And I must say, I do really like this area. It feels open, it feels quite wide because of that glass wall back there, which is rather simple, but does the job perfectly for me at least. And of course, all the batteries. Let me just give you guys a very quick tour of these batteries. Everything up here might look fairly decent, but when it comes to our logistics, well, that's a different story. If you are an electrician, you might want to look away now. Yes, this is what we've done. Blue water, very, very nice. Yeah, connecting the power right above our water for a real life situation is not the best idea, but it completely hides it from this thing. If you were to have a quick look around here, as you can see, the wire goes straight down. You can barely even see this thing's even connected, even though, obviously, it is. Yeah, I do apologize to any electricians who do watch this video, because you'll probably be pissed off now. Sorry. Like mentioned, I will show you guys the logistics of the core generators in just a moment. But first, let's talk a bit more about the back. I honestly don't know why, but I really love the design of the end of this tunnel. But when you do come out of the tunnel, you can then come down on the ramps. You can then choose to go up on the left, up on the right, or continue straight into here, where you then have the back of the facility. Luckily, like I mentioned earlier, these pipes are the exact same like we have all the way around the area. But I must say, for just a standard glass wall, I'm actually rather surprised by the way this thing ended up looking. And of course, we have to talk a little bit more about the arched roof. I was slightly inspired by a temple in Skyrim that I thought looked pretty cool, so that's why I chose the arched roof rather than a flat roof. I thought that would be pretty cool. Regarding the main build itself, that's essentially it. Let's talk logistics. So we might as well start back here, in our side entrance where all the core comes in. The way that I've designed this core line is actually extremely simple. If the conveyor lifts are black, it means that it's a pure 270 node. If it's red, it means it's an impure 150 node. This is very important when it comes to the actual logistics and maths required for this build. However, let's follow our core into the absolute labyrinth that is our underbelly of the factory. When I say it's a labyrinth, I am not understating that. This thing seems to go on forever, and ever, and ever. But eventually I'm stuck. Eventually you come to this area right here. The way that our core setup works, again, is rather simple. So here we have got a splitter. This then goes into this core generator, and this core generator. We then have both of these pumps and these pipelines. The reason why the pipelines, I reckon, are so important is because if you struggle with pipelines, just do what I do. Literally, right on the opposite side of this chrome wall is our water extractors. So all it does is go through that wall along the straight line where it then goes to the pipeline pump. It then goes either left or right, and then straight up to the core generators. That is it. The pipeline is so short, but it does exactly what we need it to do. Obviously, the core line goes as far as it needs to go. And as you'd expect, these logistic lines go on for absolutely ages. The logistic work for this build took me hours to do, so I hope that you guys do like it. It might look complicated, by the way, but because of the way that I've constructed all of my blueprints, it's made everything so freaking simple. I can't even begin to express how important my blueprints are in this save. Like, generally, without blueprints, I would not even have bothered doing this, because I saved dozens of hours from my very good blueprints. Which I know sounds a bit cocky saying that my blueprints are fantastic, but I wouldn't have said it if they weren't. Yeah, this part of the factory doesn't quite look as nice, but to be fair, I spent most of it just making sure that the factory actually works, rather than focusing on the beauty of it that you can't even see. Honestly, that is about it. But I really hope that you guys did enjoy, and again, make sure you are subscribed if you like Satisfactory content. And who knows, we could even get a starter factory tour at 100 likes. Either way, thank you very much for watching. But before we go, a massive thank you to our members, Mau Mau, Skull and Hattie, Lo, Litormal, Heroes Rising, Cutthroat Zoo, Yamikel, and Tio Rico.